everyone, and welcome back to the Crafty Yellow Camper. And today I'm going to be showing you a couple of cards that I've made using this stamp set, the flowering Rainboots and the matching dies that go with it. It's a really lovely set. It's got lots of different options for layering things up, and I just really love it. So let's get started and I'll show you the first card. The first one I'm actually going to talk you through making. The second one I'm just going to show you the card and tell you what I've done, just to speed things up a little bit. Okay, so this is the card. It's a platform card, and I don't know if you can see, it has this little platform here that sits on top. I have actually used some retired papers on here because I'm waiting for an order to be delivered. So unfortunately you can't get these papers anymore. They were retired from the autumn winter seasonal catalogue, but hopefully you'll get the gist and maybe recreate the card using some papers that you have. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is to start with our cardstock, and for this I'm using some Blackberry Bliss. Those papers were called Blackberry Beauty, I think. So I'm using some Blackberry Bliss cardstock, which is one of my favourite colours, and I'm cutting it in half lengthways at 10.5 centimetres. That's for a UK A4 sheet. And on that A4 sheet lengthways, excuse me, I'm just referring back to my instructions so I tell you the exact measurements correctly. Okay, so I've put one half of that sheet to one side. We're going to use that in a second, but this will make the main part of our card. So I'm using a full length of an A4. As I said, I've cut it in half at 10.5, and I'm going to do some scoring now. So on our trimmers, the scoring blade is the lighter coloured one and the cutting blade is the darker one. Okay, so I'm going to start by scoring this at 3 centimetres. Level on the trimmer might help. 3 centimetres, 7 centimetres, 11 centimetres, and 14.8. And 14.8 is actually the halfway point on a sheet of A4, and that's where you would cut it, but going in the opposite direction if you wanted to make a C6 card base. So the other piece of cardstock we're going to use is going to make the front panel here, this section here. Hopefully you can see that. So I need to cut this down. So I'm actually going to trim my piece of cardstock to 17 centimetres. So I've opened out the extendable arm, which will take you right up to 17 inches on our trimmers. And I can close that back up because that's our longest cut. And this needs to be 8 centimetres wide. So I'm just going to cut that. Okay, so we can get rid of that piece. We don't need that. And then on this piece, we need to do some scoring, but we just need to score it at 10 centimetres and 14 centimetres. Okay, so I can move the trimmer out of the way now and bring back in my original piece of cardstock. So I'm just going to use a bone folder just to burnish those folds because we want them nice and crisp to make our platform mechanism. And you can see once I've burnished at that 14.8 mark that is a standard C6 card. So I'm just going to go down and burnish my other folds. Trying to make sure that I'm in the camera shot all the time. And then this is our front panel that we scored, so I'm just going to burnish those folds as well. Okay, so these are our pieces of cardstock now to make our card base. So I'm going to put this piece to one side again. We'll come back to that in a little while, and we're going to work on this piece. And as I said before, this is actually a basic C6 card now, but we need to turn it into this section. Sorry, I'm showing you the card sideways. So this section here. Okay, so we need to put some glue along here, and this is going to fold to make our box section at the bottom. But if I hold that up, I don't know if you can see from there, but the piece of cardstock finishes there. In order to get this card out of one piece of cardstock, you have to have one side that's not the same distance. Okay, so the easiest way to glue that and make sure that you get it square, because this card needs to fold flat. Oh, actually, sorry, go for a glue that's actually got some in, is to lay your cardstock flat, and then I've just folded up the bottom two sections. Okay, so this is the one that isn't exactly the same size, so I'm just going to put some glue along one edge. Let's come out a little bit fast. Now, the easiest way to make sure that this is square is to keep this section here flat where we've just put our glue and fold it over and give it a good press. Just give it a few minutes for the glue to catch, and hopefully I haven't put too much glue on there and it's not currently squidging out underneath. Okay, there we go. So when you unfold it, you'll get your box, and that is the easiest way to make sure that this section here is level. Okay, and it needs to be able to fold up. So before we go on and put the front of the card on, I need to add my papers. So I've already cut them. So the piece of paper to go on the back here, there we go, that's going to go there. Sorry, I can't pick it up. That's going to go on there like that. Okay. So we'll pop some pop some glue even onto the back of that piece of cardstock. And it's really easy to work out your cardstock sizes from measuring the actual card base itself. I've just noticed this one's a little bit short actually, so it should have been a little bit longer. So if I get my ruler out, I can show you how to work it out. Okay, just get that at level. Okay, so this is our card base, and let's measure it in centimetres. So we know it's 10.5 centimetres wide, and it is just over 11 deep, 11.2. So as a general rule of thumb, what you do is take off 0.5 centimetre on each edge. So for the width, the card is 10.5 wide, so we cut the paper at 10 centimetres, and if the depth is 11.2, then we would cut the paper at 10.8. Okay, and then this piece here at the front, again, we want the same width, so that's 10 centimetres. And then again, if you measure this panel, which we'll just do, that panel measures 4 centimetres. So our cardstock is 10 across and 3.5 down. As a general rule of thumb, that always works for a matting layer. If you take off 0.5 centimetre, it gives you a nice border around the outside. So I'm just going to flatten that down to stick that on there, and you'll notice that my cardstock doesn't match exactly there with the patterns, but it does down at the bottom. So okay, so that's the main body of our card done, so we'll put that to one side. So we're now going to come back to this front section. This is the section that we're going to put our decorations on, if you like. So I've gone ahead and I've cut another piece of designer series paper. Obviously most of our papers are double-sided, so you can use whichever side you like, and I'm going to use this side. And I know that the stems are going sideways, but we're going to have quite a lot of decoration on this, so you're not going to notice. So it's a good way to use up the scraps of paper that you've got. All right, okay, so we're just going to put some glue on that. And again, that's cut at 0.5 centimetre smaller than the actual piece of cardstock. Okay, so I think this is cut at 9.5 by 7.5, I think. Okay, so that's going to make the front platform of our card. So now we need to attach this to this. Okay, now the most important thing with this is that we need to make sure that this fold here does not come higher than the back of the card, or it won't fit in a standard envelope. So I've found the easiest way to do that to make sure that isn't going to happen is to put a little bit of glue along the bottom here, because this section is going to be the bit that's going to stick to our card. Remember, less is more with glue, wet glue. You don't want it squidging out. Okay, so what I've actually done, we've got 3 panels on here. The main one we've put our patterned paper on, the one that's going to make the top of the platform, and the one that's going to glue to the back. So I've folded it down, and this is our glued panel. Then if I fold the front of the card down, that's how it will be when it's shut. This needs to stick onto this in a minute, but we need to make sure this doesn't stick up at the back. So by folding it in half and putting our glue on it, we can make sure it doesn't stick over at the back, but we've still got, oh dear, it's determined to be wonky today. We've still got enough space here to stick the front down when it's up. Okay, so I'm just going to give that a few minutes for that glue to stick. And then to get it to stick on this front, which is going to fold down on our card. Oh, I must have got glue on it. Oh, no, I've managed to glue it to the... See, even people that do this regularly make mistakes. It was a little bit low, so I've just tucked it underneath. So we then need to stick this piece to here, and the easiest way to do that is to open it out. Don't do what I do, do as I say. Just put a little bit of glue along the edge. So we've folded that down, and then I'm just going to fold that in half again, and that is going to glue along that edge, so that when we fold our card up, we've got that platform and box. Okay, so from there we're going to decorate it, and I've gone ahead and stamped and die cut some elements. So on this one I've got the watering can, and I've actually got tulips with the stalks sticking out. But on this one I'm going to do that very slightly different, and I've got the sort of daisy things, I guess they're gerberas. So what I'm going to do is put some dimensionals onto the back of my watering can. You can put on as many or as few as you like. I'm a bit tight when it comes to dimensionals, and the easiest way to get the backing off, I find, is just to sort of dig your nail into the middle of the foam pad, and then that lifts the edges for you. And because I'm gluey, I've got them stuck to my fingers now. There we go. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so I'm going to pop this watering can. Now, because this panel is narrower than the actual card, we can afford to go over the side of the panel a little bit if we need to. So you can see my handle of my watering can, if it needs to, go over the side of the panel. Okay, and we're just going to pop that there on the dimensionals. And then we've got our flowers. So I'm going to pop some dimensionals onto the backs of those. I'll just take the back ends off those. Some people find it easier to use the end of a pokey tool or pair of scissors. Okay, and then we're just going to layer up these flowers so they look like they're growing out of the watering can. So that's that bit. And then I've got 2 pots here, and I want my pots to look like they're standing in a stack. So the best way I've found of doing that, if you'll excuse me, sorry, I'm just rifling for my craft knife, which I thought I'd put back on my desk, and I hadn't, and a cutting mat. So the best way to do that is to use a craft knife. I'm hoping you can see what I'm doing, and I'm just using the stamped image as a guide, and I'm just using my craft knife to cut along. I'll show you on the one I haven't cut, on this line here. Okay, so just pop that out of the way, and then that enables you to slide the bottom of one pot through the top of another, so it looks like they're stacked up. Okay, and then I'm just going to turn that over. Now you could glue this piece here if you want to, but I've found if you put a dimensional over both halves to stick it down, then that holds it in place for you anyway. Okay, and again, you can add more dimensionals if you want. And I'm just going to pop that there next to my watering can. So the last thing I've done on here is I've put a greeting, and I've used one of the greetings from this, and it says live life in full bloom. So that's the one I've done on my sample card, but I'm not actually going to do it on this one because this card is going to be a birthday card. So I'm going to leave the front like that for the minute, and then I will find a birthday greeting which I will put probably up here. Haven't decided yet, but anyway, that's the basics of the card. I hope that you've found that relatively easy to follow, and if you haven't, please feel free to send me a message. So I'm just going to move that card to one side for a moment, and I'm just going to find my other cards to show you what else I have done with that set. Okay, so I wanted to make a card that used the Rainboots elements but was a simple C6, just to make them easy to make. And I've done a ladies version and a man's version of this. Okay, so on this one, on both of them, I've used the stacked stone large stamp as a background, so that it looks like the things are standing against a brick wall. And on this one, I've cut out the Wellington boots. I'll move the stamp set over, these Wellington boots here, and as I said, they're dies for all of them. I've done another watering can, and there's a cute little die that cuts this little sort of forky rake thing, and another die that cuts out this trellis. And that I thought would be ideal for a man's card. I haven't put a sentiment on it yet because I'm not sure what it's going to be used for. I tend not to put sentiments on my cards until I know what it's going to be used for. And then this is the ladies version that I've done. Again, the stacked stone, the trellis, the watering can. I've used those gerberas again, just in a different colour. This is petal pink. And I've stamped and die cut one of the little seed packets. Not very well, I have to say. It could do with a bit better stamping. And this I would use for a ladies card. So I just wanted you to see how versatile that stamp set is. I think this is going to be a really popular one from the spring summer catalogue. You know, lots of people over the lockdown period have got into gardening, and there are lots of possibilities, both for male and female cards using this. I didn't want you to think just because it had gerberas and tulips that you could only use this for ladies cards. Okay, so that's it from me for today. Very quick video today. I'm just going to bring back in those cards, and hopefully you like the cards that I've done, and I will see you again soon. Happy stamping.